Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas. It's me and Uncle Stevie today for the show as we're reflecting on Chelsea being crowned the best team in the world ever. Of course, after beating PSG convincingly in the Club World Cup. Back pages not only in England but across the globe saluting Enzo Maresca's team as we welcome in James Ollie and Don Hutchinson. Don, just to reflect a little bit more on what we saw in that final, Chelsea were really good.
They were amazing. I think they used PSG's strength as their weakness. The two fullbacks for PSG bomb on and they played Cole Palmer, not the number 10. They played them on the right-hand side, and the two wide players, him and Neto, sort of cheated and allow Mendes and Hakimi to sort of bomb forward, and then on the transition they had them in space. But I thought Caicedo was sensational. I mean, trying to stop that three-man midfield of Paris Saint-Germain, which I think is right up there with one of the best three midfielders in terms of how they complement each other. They are amazing players, an amazing team. So you've got to take your hat off to Chelsea and the work that Maresca and his players done. Fantastic performance. James,
it's your job to watch Chelsea. Were you surprised? You must have been surprised. There's no way you saw this coming.
No, not at all. I mean, they weren't particularly impressive in the group stage, and obviously the criticism all the way through, even when they were winning the knockout rounds, was, with respect to those teams, who were they playing? I mean, I was at the Benfica game, which they very nearly went out. It was kind of farcical situation, obviously, where there was a delay for 2 hours to come back to play the final few minutes. Because, of course, they were relying on Nicholas Jackson for the whole of last season. And as soon as Jackson got injured, they were suddenly thinking, well, do we play Cole Palmer through the middle? Pedro Neto tried to play through the middle. They played Tyreke George there at the back end of the season, an academy kid who, again, another one with potential, but no real experience as a centre forward. Suddenly now they've got two options that you think, well, if one gets injured, the other one can come straight in. And it's a real sort of straight fight between those two. Plus, of course, Jackson remains to be seen whether he's still there in September. But at the moment, they're talking about it as if the three of them are going to fight for those, well, probably that one position leading the line.
Now, what's interesting now is how what happened at the weekend has changed the narrative somewhat around Chelsea and their role as title contenders when the season starts next month. Take a look at how the bookies had things set. This was before the Club World Cup. They had 20-1, 14-1, 10-1 before the final, 8-1 now to win the Premier League, given what we saw in that performance against the PSG. But is it a bit of a poison chalice, Stevie, in a sense that, hey, if you can play like that against the best team in the world, why can't you do that week in, week out?
Well, I think we've got to go back to the guy we've just been talking about, João Pedro. That's how big a difference that having a proper centre forward makes to this team. During the season, and we sat here for most of the year, the majority of us talking about Nicholas Jackson, saying that we didn't think he was good enough. And although he did score some goals, we always kept saying, yeah, he took it well, but you can't rely on this guy. Well, this is a complete different kettle of fish. You've gone from Nicholas Jackson, who, if you're on your game and you're on top, you still don't know whether this guy's going to score. He needs 3 chances to get a goal, and he certainly doesn't get anything on his own. He's not one of those guys that creates anything for himself. And then you sign João Pedro, who does exactly the opposite. If you're on top and you're creating, he's going to score. I mean, look how he dinked the goalkeeper. That's just quality.
So we've got a 4-horse title race in FIFA.
I think so, yes.
Really? Don, do you agree?
No.
Well,
no, Chelsea for me are not there yet. I think there's still areas. I think there's still areas that they need to strengthen. Robert Sanchez.
Let Steve just retract everything he's just said.
No, let me rewind. No, I think they're the top 40. They're not. If they
when I said to you, are they title contenders, and you said yes, João Pedro really is. Does that make that much of a difference?
I didn't mean that. No.
Well, you did say that.
Well, hold on a second. Well, if you let me finish, you'll tell you what I was going to say, right? When I retracted.
I did let you finish. They went to Dawn, and then you had some sort of crisis.
Tell me when you. No, this absolutely will solidify them in the top 4. If they have a João Pedro.
That's not the question.
No.
The question is,
Chelsea won't win the title.
So they're not in the title race?
And I won't retract it. Chelsea will not win the title.
OK, all right then. Don, which Stevie do you agree with?
I think I agree with the latter, Stevie. They're not going to win the title because there's still weaknesses in their lineup. They still need a great goalkeeper. They still need, even though Robert Sanchez had a brilliant final, he played really well, and credit to him. But I think over 38 games in the Premier League, I think there's still a flaw there. I don't think Colwill and Chalobah as a two can carry Chelsea to a title.
But
I think
Don, if they've just beaten the best
teams
team in the
above them-
world, why can't they do that week in, week out against mediocre opposition?
Because that's a one-off game. It's a one-off game. You've got to do it in the Premier League 38 times. And I'm not convinced. And I'm not knocking Chelsea, because what they've done winning the Club World Cup is amazing for them. It'll give them great confidence, and it should do. But it's still a very young team.
Is that not just them moving on with the momentum they built up towards the end of the season, where they
Maybe.
had the best form, obviously, out of everybody? And you take a look at their record, you're almost dismissing what they did at the final end of the campaign in the Premier League and suggesting that this was an anomaly when you take a look at these stats and it was anything but.
Yeah, but I mean, can you say this Chelsea side can claw, 16 points behind Liverpool? And Liverpool tailed off the last 5 games of the season, so effectively close to 20 points. So Chelsea's going to make 20 points up on Liverpool? I don't think this season, but what I am saying is you look at Chelsea now, and they are not far away in terms of one more window, and you buy a top-class goalkeeper and a top-class centre-back. The midfield's set, wide players are set. They're still talking about Jamie Gittins. You've now got 3 number 9s if Nicholas Jackson stays. So this Chelsea team are not a million miles away.
James?
Yeah, they're not a million miles away, but I think we also have to look at the impact of this Club World Cup on the start of next season. You know, these players have got 2-3 weeks off at the most. My understanding is they won't go away again this season. Their pre-season will basically be a training block at Cobham. They've got a few games at Stamford Bridge, a couple of friendlies, I think, over a weekend just before the season starts. They've already asked the Premier League to have the start of next season delayed and pushed back. That request has been rejected. They're clearly concerned about it. You got a sense from my time out covering them in America that Maresca was already had one eye on next season, thinking about the physical load that these players are taking on. They were complaining. We all know about the heat out there, the conditions, and how draining it was for the players at the end of a very long season. I think to expect this Chelsea team, which has some new component parts we've all talked about, having to come in together and gel. And yes, they've got a bit of a head start on that by playing out in this Club World Cup, but it's going to be different in the Premier League, having to do it week in, week out. To expect that team to start well and maintain a form over 38 games, it feels a little bit too early for them, especially when you consider they've got Champions League football next year. You know, the Conference League they had last season, and there's a bit of stat padding going on in that graphic you showed earlier, because of course the second half of last season they were playing, Farmers 11s every other week in the European third-tier competition. So there is an issue there that they've got to go back to the Champions League, where they're not going to be able to rotate an entire 11. They can't leave Cole Palmer out of the whole group phase like they did with the Conference League. That is a big step up for them to handle, not just the physical load that is going to be a consequence of this Club World Cup, but also the Champions League. It just feels too much to expect this squad from where they are now to go and win the Premier League next season.
Al final del partido hay una situación que creo totalmente evitable por parte de todos. Mi objetivo y mi intención, como siempre, es intentar separar a los jugadores para que no haya más problemas. Situación evitable, hay mucha tensión, mucha presión, y a partir de ahí hay una serie de empujones por parte de mucha gente que creo deberíamos evitar entre todos y que no debería volver a ocurrir. Pero, repito, mi intención, como siempre, evitar cualquier situación que vaya a mayores.
Well, that's not true. We didn't see any evidence of that whatsoever.
He really looked like he was trying to avoid it. Look at his face, he's ready for a punch.
I know, naughty, Don.
Yeah, you can't do it. I mean, I always think Luis Enrique is quite sincere, but I think he just got lost in the moment. He was probably frustrated. His team didn't play well. There were odds-on favourites, and even the last 5-10 minutes was nothing going for them. Player sent off for pulling Cucurella's hair. It was just one game too much for them, and they lost their heads. And I think, to be fair, the coach lost his head at the end as well.
Yeah.
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 You
yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah. James. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Meanwhile, let's hear from Enzo Maresca. This is what he had to say after the game. The Chelsea man, of course, proving his critics wrong once again.
Oh, no.
I have the feeling that this competition is going to be as important, if not more important, than the Champions League. He was been saying this all tournament, hasn't he, James?
No, funnily enough, after they played that last 16 game against Benfica, he was saying that the US shouldn't be hosting a major tournament. He was calling the whole thing a complete joke and really questioning why they were even there. With respect, to be fair to him, he was also saying that, you know, it was a big opportunity for them and all of that. But no, I mean, I think it's easy to say it's going to be the biggest competition after you've just won it. I think the only two people are saying that are him and Gianni Infantino, really. There doesn't appear to be anyone else who shares that view. But on a serious note, it is an important moment, I think, for Maresca, because although they finished the season very positively, they obviously secured Champions League qualification, massive win away at Nottingham Forest, and then they beat Real Betis to win their first trophy under the Bowley Clear Lake ownership. There were still murmurings, I think, behind the scenes among the fan base, really, about Maresca's style of play, about whether he was quite expansive enough, whether he was entertaining enough, whether there was really a sense of purpose to what they were doing, or whether it was just sort of possession for possession's sake. And I think that positive end to the season, Maresca's been able to take that into the Club World Cup. We've seen a bit of experimentation that actually helped him in the final, because he was experimenting with where Cole Palmer was playing. He played him out on the right against Flamengo, didn't really work, they lost. Played him out on the left in the tournament as well, a bit better, but you were still thinking, well, why is Palmer just not playing in his regular position as a 10? And then, of course, playing on the right against PSG, it proved to be a masterstroke. And I think it's a real validation and vindication of what Maresca's trying to build and work towards, that I think will give him a real sense of confidence and renewed purpose going into next season.
Don, you have been a massive champion of this tournament since the start. Nothing to do with being paid by a rival broadcaster, I'm sure. Is it one day going to be bigger than the Champions League?
No.
It's
Come on,
now.
I mean, the Italian champions, Napoli weren't in it. Liverpool, the English champions weren't in it, and Barcelona, the Spanish champions, weren't in it. My intrigue, as I've always said, and I stand by it, I was consistent in saying my intrigue in this competition was watching teams that I've never seen before, as in like Palmeiras, who I've never commentated on before, playing against European sides, or Ulsan HD, South Korean sides, playing against the South African side, and see how they got on against some of the European sides. That's where my intrigue come from. And I was at the Porto game, the Palmeiras game, when Messi scored his free kick in the top corner. Atmosphere was amazing. So that was my intrigue. And then you fast forward, you get PSG against Real Madrid in the semi-final, and PSG Chelsea in the final. Of course, I was back home, not being paid. I'd done my work, but I was still intrigued. I still watched the semis and still watched the final, because I love football and I wanted to watch it, and I wanted to watch different styles come up against each other. But it's never going to be as big as the Champions League. As I said before, Spanish champions not there, English champions not there, Italian champions not there, so it can't be bigger.
Some more Club World Cup questions to come over on Extra Time. As always, you can check that out over on our YouTube channel, where the boys stay late to answer your questions. Things are starting to get moving, aren't they, with regards to Arsenal adding new faces to their squad. Obviously, according to reports, it looks like Madueke will join. But the big one that is getting, obviously, Arsenal fans exciting, Gyökeres making that move from Portugal to England. James, this looks inevitable now.
Yeah, there's a sense of momentum behind it now, I would say, that there hasn't been for quite a long time. I mean, we could go back to last summer when they were looking at Benjamin Sesko at Red Bull Leipzig. He was the player they wanted to sign for this position. He ended up signing a new deal, and they decided to wait. In January, they weren't going to do anything. And then, of course, they got those injuries to, well, mainly it was Gabriel Jesus. That was the injury that kind of triggered them to go into the market. They made a late move for Ollie Watkins. That was something that was presented to them by Aston Villa. It wasn't something they were looking at. And earlier in that window, they were trying to get Sesko again, but they were told mid-season they couldn't get him. So the expectation was in this window that Sesko would finally be their man. But because Leipzig have not budged on the asking price at all, and Andrea Berta, the new sporting director at Arsenal, has a proclivity for negotiating multiple deals at the same time. He's been talking to the Sesko camp. They've been talking to the Gyökeres camp for a while. They've always liked Gyökeres. He was always on that shortlist, but I think Sesko was ahead of Gyökeres until probably the last couple of months. But because Sporting have started to show signs of a willingness to compromise, and I think the players' desire to move to the Emirates Stadium, and also the agent's desire to waive some of his fee, which has been quite a significant amount of money and has helped bridge the gap between the two clubs, has got us to a point now where we're likely to see Arsenal sign Gyökeres, hopefully for them, in time for them to go away to Singapore for their start of pre-season on Saturday.
So let's go through your provisional starting 11 then, shall we, James? Is this team good enough, I suppose, to compete with Liverpool and Manchester City and win the title?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. I mean, you're going to need players to hit the ground running there, aren't you? I mean, Zubimendi's going to have to come in and show that he can control games in the Premier League. If he's going to play as the sort of single six in that system, it's a huge ask for a player not knowing the league to come in as a single pivot and allow Rice and Odegaard to go on as the eights. We've put Madueke in this team on the left in the graphic. I think that's a difficult one to call because obviously Martinelli's the sort of starter in there, but he's not really kicked on in the last couple of years. And I think Madueke's played, he finished the season with Chelsea on the left-hand side, the domestic season on the left-hand side, shows he can play there. And there are some sort of suggestions that he's coming in as a sort of support for Saka. There's an incredible workload on Saka. They ask him to play every game, every week, and Madueke could sort of swap in for some of those matches. But I don't think Arsenal are in a position where they can pay upwards of £50 million for a squad player, really. I think Madueke's probably coming in to stake a claim and start maybe on that left-hand side. And that... I mean, I have to say, I still think there are more questions than answers. I don't think these players are ready-made solutions. Gyökeres, a goal a game, more or less, for Sporting, 96, 98 and 100 or something like that. You know, an incredible record, but not proven in the Premier League. Madueke, my understanding is that's more of a data-led signing than anything else. I think Arsenal have looked at some of the underlying numbers, not necessarily goals and assists, but more of what he can produce with and without the ball, and they think they can really help him kick on in a way that maybe he hasn't quite done at Chelsea. But again, you're asking a player to improve beyond the levels that we've currently seen. So, look, I like a lot of what they've done, but I think to sort of say, well, it's not as though they've gone and got Alexander Isak to play in that position. You go, okay, wow, all right, fair enough. The guy's proven in the league. You kind of know what you're getting, guaranteed 20 goals minimum. Gyökeres could easily go and do that, but I do think there are more questions than answers at this stage about this group.
Don, can Arsenal win the league with that team?
I think they can, but I mean, there's a lot of context to it. I mean, can they keep their discipline? I mean, that was a thing that harmed them last year. What's Arteta going to be like? Because the players sort of feed off his energy, and sometimes he goes over the line, and sometimes the players follow that. And 4 or 5, 6 red cards last season. My initial feeling, looking at that 11, my answer is no. But I don't think they'll be a million miles away. I think they'll be close. But I think, you know, when you look at what Liverpool have done with Florian Wirtz and Frimpong and Kirkes, they're building on top of what they've already got. And Man City have certainly built in the January window and in the summer window. It's going to be tough for Arsenal. My instinct says no. My gut feeling says no. I think they'll be short again. Absolutely, and he will be the one that fires Newcastle to a Premier League title, him and Isak this season. I love him. As I said before, he's like João Pedro. I like that centre forward. That's very reliable. Being a midfield player myself, and Stevie will understand, it's very important that you've got a centre forward that can link the play and can play the width of the 18-yard box and is reliable, so you can make your runs off him, and he's trustworthy. Also, on top of all the talent that he's got, and I think the biggest difference when you compare him to Darwin Núñez is Darwin Núñez is very erratic and he's fast-paced in front of goal, where Ekitike is that little bit slower. Now, you know, trying to find a formation where they can all get in, this is what I've come up with. I don't think a 4-4-2 would suit Newcastle because their strength is the 3 boys in midfield, so I wouldn't have thought Eddie Howe would move away into a 4-4-2 and lose one of those 3. So it looks to me, if Isak stays and Ekitike stays, that's the system, the 3-5-2 that they could play. Inter Milan played that, Inzaghi played that, and they played that with 2 centre forwards. So, I mean, I'm joking when I say that could fire Newcastle to a title, but my word, that is pretty impressive, that 11.
So where should their ambitions be then, Don, this season?
Staying in the top 4, Dan. The last time Newcastle got in the top 4, and they actually walloped, if you remember, they walloped PSG at St James's Park, didn't they? They walloped them, they beat them 4 and could have been 7. It was embarrassing for PSG that night. But that season in the Premier League with a small squad, Newcastle finished 7th. So they couldn't handle on a small squad Champions League football and all the emotion and all the domestic football and handle the Premier League. Their squad wasn't big enough. So if they can get Ekitike and they can, make sure that Alexander Isak stays on top of Gordon and Barnes and Alanga and Jacob Murphy. And as I said, the boys in midfield who are sensational, they should be pushing for a top 4.
Don, thank you very much. Just a reminder to keep you up to date with all the latest transfer news. Be sure to check out Transfer Talk over on the website. Not a lot of soccer going on at the moment. Obviously got the Women's Euros, which is dominating coverage in Europe. But we thought we'd kind of turn the clock back a little bit, because one of our most popular segments during COVID was the quizzes that we did with the boys. Stevie's unaware of this. Don, you're very much a cheerleader throughout this segment, because this segment is called Stump Stevie. And we're going to ask you 5 different questions. 5 different questions, Stevie, ranging not just soccer, all across the world. This was the 2024 Men's Ballon d'Or 1-2. Rodri, Vinicius Jr. Who was 3rd? I like the clock as well.
Salah?
Mo Salah is the wrong answer. Don, do you want to jump in? What would your guess be?
Do you know what, Dan? I mean, my short-term memory is shocking.
Right,
I can't remember.
Jude Bellingham came in at number 3. Of course you'd say Mo Salah, Stevie, with your Liverpool ways. Really, the whole point of this segment was to ask this question, which is coming up now for you, Stephen. Can you name any of the Club World Cup halftime show artists? We've given 2 already. Can you name any of the other 3?
I didn't watch it.
What were you doing?
I'm getting makeup. I believe it was Absolute.
I'm not quite sure it kind of was your sort of thing at all.
I could probably have watched it and still not have told you who it was.
Yeah, I think there's one band you would have got, which is quite well.
Coldplay.
There you go. Yes.
I thought the guy Martin was the producer of the whole show.
Right.
I didn't realise Coldplay actually played.
There you go.
I heard it on the radio or something on the way in this morning.
Yeah. Coldplay then, indeed.
Doja Cat?
Yes.
What is that? J Balvin.
Oh,
Never
God.
heard them.
We, of course, saw in the Club World Cup Cole Palmer get a brace. Which team did you score your first brace against, Stevie?
Chelsea.
Chelsea? You say tentatively. Oh.
Aye.
Ding, 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 says...
I had a couple against Chelsea on a couple of occasions.
Right. Meanwhile, who did you play the most games with? Well, actually, we got the list here. Bruce Grobbelaar, Ian Rush. Who is number 3 on that list? Do you know?
That I played with. Dalglish?
Kenny Dalglish is the guess. I don't know what the answer is, actually. Let's see. No. Not Dalglish. Jan Molby? No.
Ronnie Whelan?
Ronnie Whelan? Hey! They had to find the other button. Don, how many games do you reckon you played with Stevie?
I'm going to say 40.
Oh, they put you...
If that.
Say again, Don?
About 20, I think.
20?
If that.
What would you say?
Ish.
Stevie?
I was thinking 40.
It was, in fact, 42. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, not bad, Stevie.
Not bad.
That's a pretty good guess.
Aye.
I would suggest that you may struggle on these last 2. Ready?
Aye.
What day did you get married?
9th of June.
No! How do you remember that?
Aye.
How many years ago?
It was 1982.
Blooming heck, Stevie. So,
See, here's the thing. So there's 2 problems I have with my wedding anniversary. One
Yes.
is Elma's birthday is the 7th of November, and that's the 9th, and I always end up getting the time mixed up. But I actually don't take any notice of dates or months.
because I sent Eleanor a message today saying, when's your wedding anniversary? How long have you been married? Do you think he'll know? No way, was her response.
No, I know when it is. I just, at the time of the year, I don't realise that it's that time of the year.
Fair play, Stevie. That could put you in a good place.
We'll make a change.
Yeah, get some brownie points for that. There we are then. Stevie got Mo for that. Frank and Craig will be doing their quizzes tomorrow. Oh, Craig, you won't know anything. ESPN FC then will be back with those two. Be sure to join us. Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. I'm Dan Thomas. Stevie Nicol with us here in the studio. We also welcome James with us, as is Don, who may have been out in the sun. Don, just guessing?
Yeah, I played golf today, didn't take precaution, didn't put the sunscreen on, but
Yeah.
had a great day though.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Stevie sent me an interesting video today, which you had to watch with the sound on, because at the start it's like, Steve Nicol, all your best bits. You're like, oh, why is Stevie sending me this? This isn't very Stevie. But once you put the sound on, former Liverpool legend, hates our club and here's why.
Absolutely slaughtered me.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Honestly. and actually, the main reason I sent it to you is because of you.
Why is that?
Well, because generally, regardless of whether I say it or not, you twist it in a way.
No, I just call the Liverpool Echo and I
then
said,
they all
do you
grab
know
onto
do you know what former Liverpool
getting
legend?
pelters from everybody.
But you know, if any of these people saw you on the street, oh, can I have a picture? Oh, no one's giving you
hope you're
pelters,
right.
are they, in real life, are they?
You're right.
Don, did you get into any post-match altercations with an opposing manager on the pitch? You seem too level-headed to ever get that angry. Don?
What? Dear me. Who's wrote that? Level-headed? No, I was too emotional. I'd have been right involved. I'd have, sneaky little one to the ribs. Yeah, that was me in the huddle.
Was it, Don?
Getting
Does one
behind
stick out?
Stevie.
Is there one you remember?
I don't think with a manager. I mean, I had one with Enrique, who's a left back for Ipswich, and I was at Sheffield United in a playoff semi-final. We went down to Portman Road and we beat them. And he'd done the most despicable thing that any pro can do to another pro. And I went to shake his hand, and he spat in my face. Wow. And honestly, there's a picture of me pulling my hand back, and I went to punch him in the face, and there's a picture. And who's standing behind me? And he pulls my arm back. Jan Fjortoft.
Wow.
He stopped me from getting sent off. Yeah, Jan. I'll try and dig the picture out. Jan stops me, and he stops me from punching him. Otherwise, I'd have obviously been red carded, and I would have missed the final at Wembley. And then, weirdly, just how football works, 6 months later, Alan Pardew signs him for West Ham. And he walks into the dressing room, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and we just go, hey.
Really? You were soft like that? Because obviously
Yeah.
Frank and Chris Sutton had quite a history when Sutton used to play for Blackburn, I think it was. Then he moved to Chelsea, and Frank didn't speak to him pretty much for the whole season because of an altercation they had previously.
Yeah,
but you're soft like that.
I could tell that he walked into the dressing room and he's like, Stevie will tell you, when you walk into a dressing room, it's like your first day at school. It's horrible because you don't want to be too loud.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too flash. So you sit down, you get your head down, but you don't want to be too quiet. So you've got to try and mingle and have a conversation, and you get onto the pitch, then everything's fine. So he walked into the dressing room, obviously with about 25 lads he didn't know, and he knows probably, a few months earlier he'd done what he did to me. So he probably knew when he was walking in there he was going to have to address it. So instead of addressing it, we both just looked at each other and just smiled and laughed it off.
Oh.
It was the best way.
Would you have been as forgiving, Stevie?
I don't know. I was never spat. I never got spat in the face.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think I would have had to have said something.
Don, did you get lost during your trip around the US covering the Club World Cup? This was a big concern of yours, of course, going into the start of the tournament.
Not really, because we had some PR girls that properly looked after us and made sure we flew from Orlando to Cincinnati to Atlanta to Miami.
We don't need all that.
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, we had a dicey one. We had a dicey one on the plane when there was thunder and lightning, and we were stuck on a plane for about 2 hours before we flew back to, I think, Atlanta, and we nearly missed the PSG into Miami game, but we just took off and just got away with it. It was pretty dicey.
James, what was the best place you visited while you're in the States?
I would say the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Actually, I mean, obviously the stadiums have had a lot of criticism for the conditions and obviously not a lot of them being full. But that arena is something else. A real incredible place to go and watch football, and I'm glad it's being used for. I mean, it's a no-brainer really to use it for the main World Cup next summer. So yeah, looking forward to going back hopefully.
Don, we saw on your Insta you were embracing some of the food from the different places you were visiting. Did you have a favourite meal?
Oh, honestly, Dan, there was a place in Atlanta called the Twin Smokers.
Right.
And it was just pure beef brisket. It was like all pulled pork and pulled beef and like, I put it all over Instagram. It was social media. It was just like meat. It was amazing.
Oh, lovely. Second best meal apart from, of course, the one that we had, Don, when you were here. With the Club World Cup kickoff times causing heat complaints to cater to European audiences, should FIFA adjust next summer's World Cup schedule? Fans will watch no matter what time. James, what do you make of this? Are they going to make changes? Because obviously it was catered to Europe, these kickoff times.
Yeah, they are going to some extent. I mean, but you can't accommodate everybody, can you? Obviously, across all the time zones with 48 teams, it's going to be impossible, really, to strike that balance between, you know, catering it to the domestic audience of that country that's playing, but also making sure they stay out of the heat. I mean, I do think this is quite a big factor in terms of, you know, every team a level playing field in terms of the heat exposure, the time of day that they kick off, and whether they play in a covered stadium. Because let's say you have two teams that are going to play each other in the knockout rounds, and their final group game, one of them plays in the middle of the day in 35-degree heat, the other one plays in an air-conditioned stadium. It's obviously going to affect one team more than the other and give that team an advantage going into the knockout rounds. So as much as the kickoff times and balancing that with the domestic audiences in those countries, they're going to have to find a way to make sure that each of the teams is exposed to the conditions as equally, as fairly as possible, because otherwise you're just going to get teams that are going to complain about it as they did this year.
James says that as if Infantino and his mob really care.
Oh.
I mean, come
on. Do you know?
No. It's the same nonsense about the stadiums. With the indoors, yeah, we're going to get more indoors. It's the same nonsense with the fields. We're going to go back to Atlanta and that fantastic stadium and lay another field, a grass field on top of it. Don't fall for all that nonsense. Yeah, we've learned. There's been a lot of lessons learned.
Right.
Yeah, right.
James, what month does United sack Amorim?
Well, let's see. I mean, based on where they are at the moment, you'd have to say December. I think. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
say December.
December, yeah, sounded good.
If he doesn't start particularly well, can they give him another transfer window? That will be the question they'll ask themselves. And you know, if they do make a poor start to the season, then he's going to have the clear weeks. You know, this is the big thing that he used to talk about. I don't have any time to train with the players. I came in mid-season. What do you expect me to do? Sort of thing. You know, I wanted to come at the end of the season. I didn't want to come in the middle of the campaign. Well, now he's got the full pre-season. He's got clear weeks with no European football. If they're not, you know, top 6, top 8, even, I mean, they're a mid-table team for me now. If they're 7th, 8th, he's doing okay. But any worse than that, they're going to have to look at it in November, December time.
James, Don famously played for 709 clubs during his career and took care of several of the transfers without an agent. How different is the transfer landscape these days? Wow,
I mean, I wish it was like that, because you know, now you have a situation where a lot of these top players have multiple agents, and really any of the big deals can have, and quite often do have, an agent working on behalf of the selling club, an agent working on behalf of the buying club, and an agent, at least one, working on behalf of the player. You then might have a lawyer involved ×3 for the selling club, buying club, and the player. And there's usually other intermediaries who say they're involved or try to tell you they're involved. As a journalist, it's a very difficult sort of combination to decipher, really. I wish it was, you go back to the era where you could just, and these are the days, and Don and Stevie will know, I'm sure these are the days where journalists would just ring you up and find out what was going on, right? I mean, that's very, very different now.
Don, what were the percentage chances of Chelsea winning the Club World Cup, according to you, before the tournament started?
Well, they would have been pretty low. I mean, I'm not going to fudge it. I mean, I wouldn't have had them as eventual winners. I don't think many would. They fell on the kind side of the draw, which done them a massive favour. But still, I think you have to give them a bit of credit. I mean, even though it was sort of,
you're kind of dancing around the answer here, Don. Slightly, I feel. 0 is the answer, isn't it? 1%. Yeah. Stevie, during your time as one of Europe's best defenders, at one of Europe's best clubs, did any of the medical staff or dietitians ever try to dissuade you for your love of fried spuds and chocolate, or is it a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Do you know what Ronnie Moran once said to me? I think it was about 89, 90. He just once said to me, he said, "You don't really want to be eating that many crisps on a Friday night, do you?" And I went, "No, you're right, Ronnie." And then he went off, shut the door. I pulled the bag out. Because you used to come in the room at 9 o'clock.
Right.
To make sure you were in.
Yes.
Make sure, and whoever needed I got a sleeping tablet.
Okay.
So he'd come in and I'd be sitting there with bags. And he'd be like, you know, you want to watch what you're doing on a Friday night with these crisps.
I'm surprised you needed a sleeping tablet, given your ways.
I just took it, just to make sure.
Right, okay, just make sure you went to sleep. James, are you aware that on one night before the game, how many packets of crisps did you have, Stevie? What was your record?
14.
14 packets of crisps.
Well, yeah, I think we can say nutrition's probably come on a little bit in the last 2 years.
Never bloody did
Don't
me
forget
any
the pint
harm,
of Coke. don't forget the pint of Coke.
Yep.
Yeah, the Coke. You got to wash it down.
Yep. Final question. Stevie, since you watch a lot of YouTube videos, do you know who iShowSpeed is?
No.
No?
No.
There you are. Don, would you like to enlighten him? Your boys must watch him.
Yeah.
Who is he?
No, I've seen him. I've seen him knocking around.
What does he do?
Entertaining, like YouTuber.
Wow.
Oh, no. I don't.
You've
all
nailed
these
it. What does he do?
YouTubers and these, what do they call themselves? Influencers.
Oh, yes.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Right, so what's your go-to at the moment? You were watching people who were, what were they doing in the forest?
Well, they're building a hut in the forest.
Building a hut in the forest, that was your go-to watching.
Well, I kind of just move along. I just move along nicely from one thing and something comes up and then I go to that.
Yeah. And then,
right now I'm in rugby big time.
Oh, rugby, because the
Lions
are coming up at the weekend.
I'm watching all kinds of different tries and games and everything right now.
Stevie, thank you very much. I'm still impressed that you remembered your wedding anniversary. We will just take a look at one old time, shall we, at Stevie's diet during the season. Bit of sausage and mash, 2 bags of crisps and a Coke, fish and chips and beans, beautiful, club sandwich, pot of tea, pint of Coke, 6 bags of crisps. Ronnie Moran comes in.
Stephen?
That is it then. ESPN FC returns to your screen tomorrow. Craig and Frank will be here. Be sure to join us.